And welcome in to the Slump Monkeys Concrete Podcast, on our way to being the world's #1 concrete podcast. And we are brought to you by XBE, title sponsor for the month of August. So happy to have them along for the ride. And if you're a customer of theirs, probably also happy. If you're not a customer of XBE, please go check them out at their website, x-b-e.com. Learn about how they'll plug into every aspect of your ready-mix operations. It's not just ready-mix. They do asphalt, aggregates, heavy building industry is their specialty. But ready-mix is what we love the most here on the Slump Monkeys Concrete Podcast, and they are ready to plug you in. Once they get connected to all the systems, you're allowed to just run your company, not just manage it and react to things as they happen. Get real-time insights, drive things forward. They got Agent XBE. He's freaking cool. His logo is awesome. Whoever designed the logo needs a raise, in my opinion. Freaking awesome. And if you want to learn more about who they are as people, feel free to check out our past episode where we had Chris on. Chris Works is the president of Ready Mix over there at XBE. Fantastic guy, Cornhusker fan, so, nothing wrong with that, I guess. But as far as human beings, seems like a wonderful guy. Our conversation was fantastic. So happy to have XBE here. If you are interested in learning what they can do for you, please visit their website, www.x-b-e.com. Oh boy, it's still August. August feels like it's just dragged on forever, but then at the same time, the kids are going back to school. It's fun to see them. We had our first cool breeze here in the Philadelphia area where I am located. Every morning, the baby wakes up smiling and happy at 6 a.m. or earlier, and I just don't have the heart to make him go back to bed. He's ready to get up. He's all smiles. I pick him up. I take him downstairs with me, make a cup of coffee, and we take a walk around the neighborhood. Why do we do that? He loves being outside. This kid, if you would just leave him outside all day, he's in his happy place. He wants to be outside. So I'm like, all right, let's go do that. Let's just be outside. And we take our walks around the neighborhood. 2 days ago, before recording this, was the first cold morning we've had in a long time. It was 59 degrees, but the air had that crisp, you know what I'm talking about? Had that bite to it that lets you know summer is dead and gone and winter is coming. Now, I hate winter. I think it's terrible. If I could live in a place that only had spring and summer and maybe fall, I would do that. I'd be okay with just spring and summer. But we live in a place here that has all 4 seasons, and winter is indeed coming. The only good thing about that snap cold is football's around the corner. College football is what we love here. If you're new to the Slump Monkeys show, I would believe it. We got hundreds of subscribers pouring in across all the domains. Thank you so much for being here. We're happy to have you. If it's your first time, just understand this is a concrete podcast, but it is sometime veers into like college football podcast territory. That's what we love to do around here. Speaking of college football, we have created a Pick'em League. Please go to ESPN.com. Search for, it's actually easier if you just go to Google and type in ESPN Pick'em League, P-I-C-K space E-M, Pick'em League for college football. You jump in there, search our group. We're the Slump Monkeys. Jump in. Come on, sign up. We're going to recap this every week on how people are doing. We got a couple dozen people in there already. $500 first place prize. There will be a trophy. $500 first place prize to the Pick'em League. Sign up today. We will have a sponsor for that. They've already agreed. We're just putting a couple of things in writing just to make it all formal and official. But really, really excited to announce that $500 first place prize with a trophy. ESPN College Football Pick'em League Slump Monkeys. Check it out. Got to get signed up quick. Season's coming. And it's going to close. So the sign up closes. So once the season starts, the sign up closes. Those first games hit, that's out. You're out of it. $500 first place prize. There's only like 3 people right now that I don't want to win because I don't want them to shove it in my face that they have the trophy that we're going to create. But so I need your help. We can go and defeat them. As far as current events out in the world today, there are some concrete stories that really caught my eye, and I wasn't sure if you guys had seen this or not. There's a story out there reporting that the Kiewit executives see $1 billion opportunity in nuclear construction. So, if you followed along at all with the whole data center thing, it really highlighted how much more energy we need to create in this country. I think a lot of us that are in the construction industry, we knew that like the energy production in this country, sorry, was like decent. And when you have to like max out the grids, sometimes they can fall off. So you're talking about Texas when they have ice storms, talking about California when they have heat waves. There are moments where our grid seems to falter just slightly, but they're just moments. They're just moments when peak demand for a short amount of time just really taxes the grid. But otherwise, our grid's actually pretty resilient. A lot of doomers out there that want to tell you otherwise, but I'm telling you right now, it's pretty resilient. We've got capacity. But then you start bringing on data centers. You start installing factories all over the country, and we just gonna not just data centers, but other factories too. And you're gonna need the electricity. You want to build more houses? You're going to need more electricity. And that's where a lot of us see nuclear as a great option. There's been companies that are talking about building small nuclear reactors instead of like the big giant ones like 3 Mile Island. But regardless, whether it's small reactors, medium, large, these are very complex projects and very complex installations. Now, if you're sitting there thinking like, geez, we don't want Chernobyl here in the United States, Fukushima, we don't want these things to happen here. 3 Mile Island already did. How do we prevent that from happening in the future? And if you haven't looked at nuclear technology lately, the systems that are being designed in 2026 are nothing like the systems that were designed in the 1970s. They're much safer. The regulations on these things are absolutely insane, but that's not stopping Kiewit from being bullish on the reactors, nuclear reactors. So they think it's going to be $1 billion business. In fact, they've already doubled their revenue on nuclear based construction since 2022. They think that's just going to go to the moon. Right now the U.S. government's making a bet on that too. So the DOE is offering up loans directly from the Department of Energy for they're willing to loan out up to $17.5 billion for people to develop just 10 nuclear reactors across 5 sites. So that was announced back in June, $17.5 billion for 10 reactors. That's incredible. Also, earlier this year, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the NRC, who is the ones that put a lot of roadblocks in front of you to not be able to build any of these reactors, they actually gave out their first commercial nuclear reactor permit in over 10 years. So that went to TerraPower. It's a Bill Gates backed nuclear reactor design and development company. First one in 10 years. So Kiewit is trying to seize on that momentum. The data center thing is what's really driving this, right? There's a huge growth interest in that. Also, the ability to be carbon free. So nuclear is low carbon, really almost no carbon when it comes to actually producing the energy itself, and so it can be grouped into that renewables category. And Kiewit's, they said, "Yep, let's do it." I mean, we gotta jump on this. So what are you gonna do though? Are you gonna do these large jobs with the DOE where you're, you know, revamping 3 Mile Island? You're gonna do the small nuclear reactors, and these things are modular, and you can put them on different sites and power different size projects. The Kiewit guy says building a nuclear reactor is kind of like building an automobile. And not all automobiles are created the same. You got large semi trucks, and they serve a purpose. You have sports cars and race cars, and they serve a very different purpose. And you could kind of say the same thing about nuclear technologies right now. very large reactors that have a place in powering half the country, and SMRs that have their place that would be, maybe a single data center would take a single SMR. But there's a lot of challenges on these projects. Right now, nobody's developed like a real playbook. Like if you want to go build a reactor, all right, what are the steps you need to take to get through the regulatory process, the design build process, project completion? What's that playbook look like? So nobody's really designed it. So Kiewit's out there, they think they've got an idea of what that playbook looks like. And if they can develop it, then they'll be ahead of everybody else. And that's why they think they can actually get this full $1 billion market, not to themselves, but as a leg up on the competition. A lot of people look at this and they say, oh, it's too complicated, too complex. Regulatory environment's insane. You have to deal with the NRC. But, Kiewit says, oh, these people are just making excuses and they just don't want to do complex projects. And you know what? We're going to do it. I like that attitude. I love the attitude. Someone saying, "Oh, you're just scared to do it, bro." You just don't have what it takes, bro. And they're just gonna go out there and do it. One of the other concerns I had, I just don't know where it's coming from. Like the labor, the skilled labor. I I think we feel like we're in a labor shortage all the time, but then new projects pop up, mega projects pop up, and they just keep finding guys. Where? Where's all these skilled trade people coming from? It's very, very interesting to me that the people just keep showing up. But they're not just going to have a people problem with these reactors, they're going to have a materials problem. So the data centers are sucking up all the steel and copper. But what about the stuff that has to be like nuclear regulatory approved from an engineering constructability standpoint? You can't just go to Best Buy and just pull stuff off the shelf. You can't just go to Home Depot, get what you need. You can't just call an HVAC supply warehouse and get, like, yeah, you know what? I think your rolled steel will work for what we're doing. Let's just bring it on. No, it has to be like super highly engineered. And there's not a lot of firms that are doing that. So when I'm looking around, and my first thought is like, oh my gosh, there's a massive bottleneck. We should all go make a company and and do these nuclear specified products, so we can make a ton of money off of it. But Kiewit's like, well, I guess we're just going to have to support those people too. So there's going to have to be support, private and public, to just beef up the supply chain so that you can even build these things. And I think that is super fascinating. Do we know for sure that nuclear is coming? We don't know. But Kiewit's making a $1 billion bet. I absolutely am here for it. But if Kiewit had a culture problem, they could call our friends at Rocket Start. You've heard about them here since the podcast launch, and they've got one more month with us after August. And we're so, so thankful for Manny Tejano, folks at Rocket Start. He is a culture wizard, a company culture wizard. If you are a company who's seeking to reward and recognize your folks that are not just doing the basics, you can recognize them for that. You're showing up to work every day this month. Fantastic. Let's recognize that too. But the guys that are going above and beyond, the girls that are going above and beyond, and you see them do something that's positively impacting your company. For example, what if you're a ready mix driver and you were done for the day, but one more load came through and they need somebody to take it. You said, you know what? I was already washed out. I was done. I'll take that load. Somebody's got to do it. Or someone had to leave because they had get their kids from school. They said, oh man, somebody needs to take his load. He had to leave because he had to go pick up his kid. I got it, boss. No worry. I got his load. Those are the types of things that you can now recognize and then reward an employee for. And you can find out more about that at GoRocketStart.com. Tell Manny Tejano that we sent you. The Slump Monkeys Concrete Podcast sent you there. If you see Manny at a trade show, stop him. Say, Paul said, I have to tell you that I heard about you on the Slump Monkeys Concrete Podcast. Let him know that we love him. We love Manny Tejano. GoRocketStart.com. Next story, I don't know if you guys saw or not. It was a bill that got passed in the state of Missouri. Now, you guys know the rule here. We don't talk politics. Sometimes we talk policies. There's a policy. Got passed in Missouri. It also has been passed in a few other states. I believe California, Virginia, and New York also passed this, and then Missouri is the fourth state to do it. I want to talk about it right here. They passed a bill that allows the public offices, not just the state, but also local public offices, to enter into what's called a progressive design build contract. Now, if you're listening to this and you say, well, I know what a design build process is, what is progressive design build? So I'm going to define it for you. They both put the designer and contractor onto one integrated team, but the difference is when the project scope, design, and price are finalized. And I read this, and my corruption bells just start going off. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper here for you. Normally, when you're running design build, you have one firm. So let me start. You have an owner that says, I have a project I want to build. Let's pretend it's the city. City says we want to do a wastewater treatment plant. They've scoped it out. They put all the specs in place. And they put the project out for bid. If you're a design build contractor, you and maybe 4 other people come in and read the project scope, say, all right, I think I can do that. And then you place a design and a bid on it. You say, all right, it's going to cost this much to do every step of this work. Here's the design. Here's the build. And we'll just wrap all that up. We'll be the designer and the builder all in one spot. And we'll do this project at this price. The government looks at it, typically takes the low bid, and you're off to the races. You talk with the government, you get into the nitty gritty, and then get the project started shortly thereafter. The progressive design build is where the local government's going to come out and say, hey, we want to build a wastewater treatment plant, but we don't know what we're doing. Would you come help us? And then you get 4 guys that say, yeah, we can help you. And then the government just picks one. And you work together with the government to say, this is how you should design it. This is how you should build it. This is what it should cost. And I hear that. I'm like, you're awarding projects before you have looked at, there's no submittal. They're just saying they can do it. And it's very, very strange. So you're rewarding the project when the scope and design are way less mature. The owner hasn't developed like substantial project requirements or anything. Like the price is developed later. So you don't even know that you're getting the guy that would have the low bid if that's what's important for the public. It's really, really strange that you would award a project like that without knowing for sure that it's gonna cost what you think it should cost. What they're trying to say is that in the progressive design build, the city might have uncertainty around site conditions. Let's go back to the water treatment example. Might have uncertainty around site conditions, utility conflicts, permitting, or the exact budget. They don't even know what should we spend on this. And so they would select a qualified design builder first, and then work together to refine the design, do whatever investigations need to do, and then work on the price. But once the city accepts the scope and the price, then they all move together into construction. So what I had a problem with is that, you're picking the contractor before you know what it's going to cost, right? And the preferred design builder is usually the incumbent. How is a new person going to break into that? Wouldn't you just say, oh, we'll just pick the guy that did it last time because they know what they're doing? That's very strange. And once the design builders actually helped create the project and the city doesn't like how much it's going to cost, how are you going to negotiate with them? You just walked through. They walked you through their prices, and you get to the end, and you just I don't know how you negotiate that. That doesn't necessarily. And when it comes to like the incumbent advantage, like the guy just that did it last time. Well, but it'd also be like, oh, these are my friends. How are you supposed to, as the taxpayer, be confident that the procurement wasn't done just because it was a good old boys club? It's really, really, really strange to me. Also, from a risk standpoint, if you would think that, oh, we're doing this together during the design phase before we begin the build phase during this progressive design build thing, you think, okay, well, we'll be able to mitigate some of those risk about unknown site conditions, permitting utilities. But really, you collaborate together, and then a costly surprise arises. Well, all right, well, who's on the foot? Who's on? Who owes that? Is it the contractor, which it normally would be, or would it be the city because they were involved every step of the way? Now, us as taxpayers are paying for that too. It, additionally, the now that the city's not the one building the package and building the specs and saying what's going to get built and where and how, now the city is going to pay substantial design and pre-construction costs to these firms, and then at the end they might see the number and say, "Nah, that's too high. We can't do that," and the project just never happens. Cost transparency to the public, I still not sure how that really plays out. It just doesn't seem good. And then, have you ever known the government to not be complex and overburdensome? So now, before you can even get into what you would normally say is the submittal phase, you have to do all that with the government too? Yikes. Oh man, I don't get it. It's like the fox guarding the hen house type of thing that, whatever team you select is going to influence the project definition, the design choices, the schedule assumptions, the cost estimate. And then what's the government going to do? I just don't know how they push back on that. I don't know. It just smells. So there's an article out there about this, and they're trying to hype it up. It's a good thing. The Missouri legislature passes H.R. 2474, expands access to progressive design build for contractors working with government agencies. So how did they expand access? They said, hey, if you're doing a smaller job, you can also have access to this, rather than it being just really, really large jobs. And they're trying to tout that this is becoming more uh, more common, that it's picking up steam, and there's just some differences, some I just it's just it's interesting, right? So then they tried to cite a project in which it worked. They said, oh, one example that the progressive design build practice worked is the $1.5 billion Kansas City airport terminal and garage project, which opened a couple years ago. I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe my fears are unfounded. Maybe I'm a negative, pessimistic guy because we just been in construction forever, and I should be more open minded. So I decided, okay, let's go check out this project. So this project, you're looking at a redesign of a lot of Kansas City's airport. You're talking about 39 gates that were redone. You can actually expand them up to another 11 on top of that. You're looking at massive facility upgrades for travelers. The fun stuff, family play zones and shops and restaurants, like 50 of them. New parking structure. They've got different things for anxious travelers, sensory rooms. So, it's a nice upgrade. I'm not saying it's not a nice upgrade. It is. It really is a nice upgrade. However, there are criticisms about the project. So, after voters approved the plan in 2017, the build expanded in scope and it ended up costing $500 million more than anticipated. Guys, that's a 50% overrun. I just told you it was a $1.5 billion project, but it was supposed to be a $1 billion project with a $500 million overrun. And what did I tell you just a minute ago? One of my initial fears of the progressive design build is that you don't have a handle on the cost. These guys are just riding you in, and then you have no leverage. You have to just do what they say. And then who's accountable? Who's accountable? Nope. We just pay it as taxpayers. Now, not me, because I don't live there, but if this progressive design build comes over and it's hard to be accountable to who's spending what, and the project you're touting to me had a 50% overrun, $500 million in extra expenses, starting to, oh my gosh, I don't know about that. Well, guess what? It doesn't stop there. There was also a scandal around the process by which the developer was selected. Well, what do you know? Paul's number 2 fear come to life. This wasn't unfounded. In fact, it resulted in a $62 million legal settlement. That reporting's from the Kansas City Star, by the way. So, not a lot of transparency on the costs leads to a 50% overrun. And oh, by the way, it was the way everything was procured was not handled, let's say, ethically. And they had to pay $62 million to a company called Burns and McDonnell that would have received that much if it had won the airport contract. So just crazy that the two massive fears that I had going into this progressive design build thing were literally involved in the project that they're touting as a success. They're saying, oh, it worked here. Oh, did it? Did it work? I mean, the project got done. 50% overrun. God almighty. It's crazy. So what are you going to do? What are they going to do about it? Well, they held a round table and they said, all right, if we're going to move in this direction of these progressive design builds, then we got to, figure out what we're going to do. Because there's $500 billion worth of jobs in the U.S. for mega projects alone. $500 billion, at least. I mean, I'd say it's probably more than that now. We're recording this in August of 26, and I think the last estimate I had is from the end of 25. And so it could be more than 500 billion. That's still an insane amount of projects, mega projects alone that are headed here to the United States. And if you're going to go to this new way of doing it, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to fix it? They say, oh, we just have to have better communication. That's it. Just better. If we just have better communication from the start, then everything will be fine. It'll be fine. Nothing to see here. We just got to have better communication. Better communication. That'll prevent 50% cost overruns. Better communication. That's all we need to not, illegally hire people without submitting things correctly. Jeez Christ. Just the design, the whole design build thing's weird anyway. Because you give it to a guy who says I'm a design build contractor, but then they sub out the design. And then maybe they do the build. Maybe they sub that out too. And they just manage the project for you is essentially what they end up doing. It's a really strange, it's just all very strange. We need to get Jason Wimberly back on here later this year. We'll go through all this design build stuff. He's an expert. I'm just angry. We'll have him on here. We'll go through it. But I just want y'all to know that the world's a weird place. People do weird things, and you know who's not weird? Command Alcon. That's right. Our friends at Command Alcon are sponsoring us again here this month. We appreciate them helping us get this show off the ground out to the wonderful audience. Command Alcon is celebrating 50 years in the software business. Think about that. 50 years. Can you think of what software companies existed in 1976? And how many of those are still around today? Apple, Dell, and they all went into hardware. Command, software only, baby. And they've ridden all the waves from the on-site, on-prem server, craze to now everything going into the cloud and now everything being agentic. They're navigating it each step of the way. And you know that if you want to talk to the greatest IT guy in concrete, you can call Billy Ripple over at Command Alcon. He is available on LinkedIn. You tell him the Slump Monkeys sent you. All right. Billy Ripple, greatest IT guy in concrete. Command Alcon, they have a special place in our heart here, and we appreciate them. Please visit them at commandalcon.com. That's ALKON, commandalcon.com. If you're interested in being a sponsor on the show, we would love to have you. Please reach out directly to me, admin at slumpmonkeys.com. That's MONKEYS. Slump Monkeys, admin at slumpmonkeys.com. We are sold out of ads until February of 27. But if you would like to reserve your space in February of 27, we'd love to have you. I'm concerned that we're sold out so far into the future that people are going to forget, and we're going to get to February and we're going to be looking around like, oh no, there are no sponsors because everybody just forgot. Because I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's a long way away. But what I can tell you is the things that are coming in starting in October this year, things are going to get wild. And 2027 is going to be a special, special year for this podcast. I'm so happy that all of you are along for the ride. I am so pleased to introduce the interview for today. This is TJ Crosby. He went in and took over Concrete Careers. You might think, what does that got to do with me? Oh my gosh. The way I've got Billy Ripple is the greatest IT guy in concrete. I think TJ Crosby is now the greatest HR person in all of concrete. I never thought I would like an HR person ever. And then I don't. Look, if Miss Barbara or Miss Sue are listening to this, I don't mean you guys. Like I like y'all personally. When we were at the Christmas functions, it was wonderful. You were so nice to my family. You're great people. Love you to death. But when it comes to like work, I never came to your office. I never got called in your office for a good reason. It was somebody was yelling about somebody on my team doing something or me doing something that it was just ridiculous. And I think TJ's like outlook on this was really interesting, and his idea of where the incentives lie are really interesting. And now what he's doing at Concrete Careers, they're doing something nobody's ever done before. And when you hear about the idea, you're like, oh my gosh, how did we not think of it? How did nobody think of this? This is crazy, but his team thought of it, and we're happy to have him here. Please welcome him into the Slump Monkeys Concrete Podcast. And welcome into the interview portion of the Slump Monkeys Concrete Podcast. We have a fantastic guest today. He might be the concrete world's greatest HR man. We have TJ Crosby, CEO of Concrete Careers. What's going on, man?
Doing well. Glad to be on. Excited to be part of the show.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I've got in my life, I have the person I consider to be the greatest IT person in all of concrete. That would be Billy Ripple over at Command. And now I humbly believe that you are the greatest HR person. And I'll get into why in a minute, but maybe you could explain to people a bit of your background.
Yeah, happy to. I feel validated in creating my Instagram handle the other day at Concrete HR guy. So I feel validated in creating that the other day on Instagram. But I am an HR guy through and through. Been in HR for about 20 years and have enjoyed a lot. I've worked in private equity for quite a while and struck out on my own about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago at this point, and actually invested in Concrete Careers, which some may know, some may not have heard of us yet, but we've been around for 50 years. But really excited about jumping into this industry. It's been a phenomenal industry to be a part of, and you know, got my wife put a lot of faith in me in making that transition. She was a stay at home mom at the time, and so we came in Concrete Careers. We grown a lot. It's a search firm, and then also invested in an HR consulting firm about 2 years ago because couldn't get too far away from the HR roots, and so yeah, I mean, I live down here in Atlanta. We serve the whole country, and great team. You got to meet some of my team members the other day, and we just have a lot of
Great
fun
team.
in what we do
Great.
and try not to take ourselves too seriously. And so, yeah, but got a 13-year-old, 7-year-old. She just started playing lacrosse, and so
Oh,
figuring that out. And he plays soccer a little bit. So we try to split the seasons, one spring, one fall, to not
yeah.
be too busy because
Yeah.
busy enough, as you know, working
Yeah.
full time
It's
and having a podcast, running businesses.
no, no. Well, the podcast is the one thing that doesn't feel like work, man. It's
That's fair.
oh, and you think the podcast is happening now? We've got some things coming in 2027. You're not even going to believe. Like this,
Love it.
this
Love
thing
it.
is going to take off like a rocket ship. There are things happening in the background. I cannot wait to tell everyone about. And
Exciting. It's
I
exciting.
mean, I'm just fired up. This is the only thing that literally doesn't feel like work. Like when I
Yeah.
sit down, it's 9 o'clock at night. The kids are asleep, and I have to do something for the podcast. It's not like
Right. Right.
I have to go in there and edit a clip. I gotta schedule it. No, I'm like,
Yeah.
sweet, let's do it. Like,
That's awesome. That's
let's have
awesome.
some fun. And I love what you said about how like you guys don't take yourselves too seriously, and that's why y'all are. Can I tell everyone now you're gonna be a sponsor in September?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Happy
Okay,
to.
great, great. They're sponsoring Concrete Careers coming on in September. We're actually going to do something with them that we've not done with anybody else, as well as like a part of like this, in addition to just being a live ad read here on the show. So I'm very thankful that you guys are coming. Very good. And one of the reasons I think you're one of the perfect partners to come along this journey and be a part of this community is I like to think that the people in this community, we take concrete seriously, but we don't always take ourselves that seriously.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And really thankful about that because, it's tough. I mean, especially coming out of private equity in the private equity space, sometimes people can get really caught up in who's wearing the bespoke suit and I flew down from New York and that sort of thing. And I'm just very kind of Main Street America vibes. I mean, one of the last companies I worked with as an HR leader, I made a point to start wearing jeans every day. At one point, I got us to approve shorts in the summertime. I felt that was a big win. But it wasn't because it's not because I particularly care to wear shorts on a regular basis. I'm happy to wear whatever, but it's really to build a culture for the team at the time that was there that was more relaxed, more comfortable because the competition for talent is real. So having a place where people feel like they could be a little more themselves and maybe they could be across the street,
Mhm.
it's helpful. So, but private equity, you really had to push hard
So
against that norm.
the last company I was with, we were owned by two. During my time there, I was there 14 years, and during that time, we had two different PE
Mhm.
firms that
Mhm.
owned us. One of them for like 8 of the years that I was there, and the other one for the remaining 6. So,
Right, right.
so I am familiar with the PE guys. None of my experience was negative. Like
That's good.
PE gets a bad rap
Yeah, it
of
does.
being like
Yeah,
negative.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But when you were there, were you doing HR stuff for the PE firm, or were you actually? So I don't know. I'm just trying to
Yeah, no, it's a good question.
figure out like how you fit in there.
So I was sort of loosely affiliated with the private equity firm.
Hmm.
I actually had two different ones that I worked with ultimately, but my main focus was in what they call a portfolio company. So the companies that they owned, they would run as kind of their own operating entity. I was the HR leader for those entities,
Oh,
basically.
gotcha,
And
gotcha. Okay, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so the private equity piece would show up. I kind of would joke if we were running well, you kind of earn your freedom a little bit, where they kind of leave you alone to do your thing. It's when things aren't going well. That's when you have more of the other folks that had to show up because they have to protect the investment. I mean, honestly, they have obligation to the people that have invested in the funds that they need to provide proper returns, much like a publicly traded company. And so, anyway, so I had really good experiences with those organizations for sure. And yeah, if you have a really good private equity partner, it can be a lot of fun. That's why we had really high growth for a while, because we had sort of like daddy's money to play with a little
Yeah.
bit, to
Yeah.
grow and do some cool things. And it was neat to be a part of that.
It was fun. I saw when you read things about like, oh, P came in, chopped,
Mhm.
diced, sliced,
Right, right, right.
whatever, and now everybody's watching expenses like a hawk, and they're cutting things, they don't trimming the fat, and all these negative horror stories. That was not my experience. The
Yeah, yeah.
first PE firm that had us, they were investors and they were invested, and
Mhm.
when they saw good ideas, they let them run and they put money behind them, and they didn't bring in a bunch of outside folks. They just said, build your team, keep going. Things were going pretty well. The second one that came in, they installed a new management team, but the previous management team, when they sold, a lot of them retired. They
Right,
made their money.
right.
They worked really, really hard for a long time, and they earned what they got, and they got out of there. The new folks that came in, though, that was an eye opening experience because it
Mhm.
was a different type of people. It
Right,
was the
right.
private equity installing their folks that they've known for years from the consulting firms, that the big ones, right, the big four like firms, and they
Right,
saw
right.
those guys and you're like, whoa, like this is another
Yeah.
level of brain power, another level and a different way of looking at things. So it was a lot of fun to learn from two different like styles, I would say.
Yeah, and I would say if anybody's thinking about, if they're thinking about going to work for a company that's backed by private equity, or private equity is coming into the mix, one thing I would say is it's a phenomenal way to be able to grow in your career oftentimes, because of the to your point, the brain power, the level of excellence that people expect. Sometimes it can be, the way I would relate it to, like, if you play tennis, tennis is very kind of a one versus one sport, right? The way to get better at tennis oftentimes is to play someone who's better than you, because you learn how
Mm.
to, you know, compete at that level. I think working within private equity is a lot that way, where you learn how to operate oftentimes at a different echelon than you would in a more traditional setting. And it's can be, I mean, I feel personally, it equipped me very well to do this, step out on my own and make investments and make decisions. I don't think I would have been prepared as well if I had worked in a more traditional setting for my career. But
Yeah. It's funny, like uh two stories quickly.
yeah,
Um the the introduction to the different level of people and way of thinking about things made me
Mhm.
realize how much I didn't know about business, and it forced me through insecurity to finally go back and get my MBA. So
There you go.
it was like I
Yeah,
just didn't want
yeah,
to feel that ignorant again, and I was
right,
like, okay, so I'm not
right,
never going to feel that way again. So I went and did that.
yeah,
The second thing was you just met a different like they were different like
mhm,
it's like different types of humans. Like, it was really interesting, like, and now I talk to people sometimes on the phone,
right,
and I just had this phone call the other day with a guy who's a VP of strategy at an aluminum company, and I'm listening to him talk, and I'm like, "Whoa, I know, like, do you know what's your background? Do you know this
right,
guy and this other guy?"
right,
Like, turns
yeah,
out they had, like, the exact same background. I was like, "Oh my
yeah,
gosh, like, you
yeah,
sound like this other per." So it was interesting. It's like, okay, there's a type of person that fits these molds, and they're just high level go getters, and it's fun to be around them. I actually wished I'd have been like better at my job and better, more capable at the time when I knew these people. Maybe I could have impressed them more. I mean, I
yeah,
look back, I'm like,
yeah,
gosh, wish I'd have taken advantage, but I just didn't know what I didn't know. I'm still learning every day.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like you I'm a big proponent of you take what you know now and move forward. I'm not one big on, like, looking back. People say, "Oh, you should have done this differently." It's like, it was what it was.
Yeah, no, yeah, no,
You
it
know,
was
I
what it
mean,
was, but
I'm here now, right?
yeah,
It's interesting. The one thing I'll say too about the private equity idea, there's a kind of this notion oftentimes when people look at people that have accumulated some level of wealth, there tends to be an assumption that it was inherited in some sense. But oftentimes, especially in America, the norm is most people are first generation that have built some kind of business or some kind of whatever. And to get to where the level they are now. Oftentimes, if it is generational wealth, you'll actually hear the words family office show up. Family
Mm.
office is what comes in when it's the family has accumulated wealth and they're deploying the funds. And there are businesses in our industry that are family office backed, but they tend to be still like kind of family held and we're put underneath the family office. But so that's one thing. You talk about the type of people that they're. If you listen to what they have to say, like they've done it. They knew how to build that success. A lot of times it's through a lot of hard work, though. Late
Oh,
nights and long weekends.
it's a 20-year overnight success.
Right, yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. When they
It's-
become visible is when.
yeah. Speaking of first generation wealth, we actually mentioned it on a previous episode. It's 93% of millionaires in the United States are first time, they're self made. They didn't inherit any money to make them millionaires. They may have inherited like 50 grand or 100 grand or something like that, but they didn't
Right,
inherit $1 million. They made
right.
$1 million and became millionaires on their own.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's interesting. A couple things around that. People's perception of millionaires, for one, is there tends to be this idea that millionaires are just like super elite group and very small. But like in the U.S., there's millions of millionaires. So like, it's a bit
Well,
nuts. But
I,
yeah,
well, no, not for long. We're gonna eat the rich. We're gonna eat them. We're gonna take all their money.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
what do you need
that's
$1 million?
that's the other thing too is like because the reason it's possible to do that is because money is it's not a finite resource. It builds on itself. Like the whole idea. I mean, the whole come back to the private equity thing. Private equity can come in, can leverage 40, 50%, and then increase the activity of the business. All of a sudden, the business is producing double the revenue it was. That revenue didn't come from somebody like it didn't necessarily even affect somebody else negatively. It just
Right.
maybe more businesses are choosing to use your services. It's so interesting. But you can get it for free. It's like a PDF download out there on the internet. There's a book called Millionaire Next Door.
Mm-hmm.
It's a phenomenal read if you haven't
Great
read
book.
it, and it kind of puts that idea in play. It talks about they were doing the research for the book, and they had these guys that all came together, and ladies and guys that came together. And the first time they met with them, they had like caviar and wine and champagne or whatever, and
Yeah.
nobody touched it. And they left. They're like nobody ate. And the next time, I can't remember the exact food they had, but let's say the next time they had like beers, like Coors Light or something, and some burgers and hot dogs, and like they ate it no problem. So there's also this idea that like a lot of times people that have produced that first generation wealth, there's a spectrum, but a lot of times it's just a guy that is driving the old Ford F-150 next door to you that just saved his money and worked hard, or it's the person that had a good idea and ran with it, took the risk. Anyway, there's all kind of ways to become that level, but it's just interesting that
Well,
people's idea of it oftentimes is very different than the reality of who actually is. That's why the whole premise of that book. So
yeah. Well, and there was a follow up study after that book. So that book, I think tracked. It wasn't even like 1,000 people that they
mhm,
tracked, and there was another study done later. It was like more than 10,000 millionaires were saying that's where I got my statistic, and
wow,
it found the exact same thing, that the average millionaire was not on a yacht somewhere eating caviar, flying private jets. The
right,
people who are millionaires in the United States, they have like, almost half of their net worth is in their home.
hmm,
The other half of it, or 40% of it, is in their 401ks, and
hmm,
then they got some cash to round it out. And that was kind
right,
of like the breakdown, give or take. And
right,
sometimes it could be like a third, a third, a third, where physical assets like your home, then
right,
your 401k, and then cash. So it was kind of in that range. And I thought that was really, really interesting, that when we think of millionaires, sometimes we're thinking of people that make $1 million of income every
mm,
year, and that's
right,
a
right. That's a
that,
different
that's
thing.
that's a precious. Now that's a precious few. That's a heck of a
That's yeah,
club to
yeah.
be inside
That's
to be
much
inside of.
smaller.
So when you were involved with private equity on the HR side, this is fascinating to me because I don't remember. I remember the second private equity people they did. I think they brought in. I know they hired a new like head of HR. I don't know
Right,
if she was brought in because she was one of them, or one of their, like you said, you were one of their people that they would install where they needed them, and you would help
right.
the different portfolio companies. But I don't know if she was that. She was good, but I don't know if she was that. So I'm curious, and I want to couch this in my experience real quick. So um, you can respond in the exact way that I want you to respond because no, I'm just playing. The
Just chat me separately. We gotta make sure I know what the answer's supposed to be.
no, no, but it's funny because a lot of the times when I'm asking questions on the podcast, it's because I think the audience would have the same question. Like that's how
Right,
I think about this
right,
show. I think about
right.
the show that I think I know who the audience is. I think I have a good feel for that, and so I'm asking the questions that they would be asking. And so in this case, this is a question that I want to know the answer to, but they might not even care
But
about.
I care. Right. Well, as
And
soon as they saw me, to be clear, the viewership just dropped.
yeah, yeah, they heard
That's right.
HR and everybody turned it off.
Change the channel.
But I'm curious because what I would see a lot of times is they would bring somebody in, and the goal of the PE firm was to beef something up. So in my experience, the PE firm, instead of flipping houses, they were flipping businesses,
Mhm. Right,
and instead of trying to do it in 5 months, they were sometimes looking at maybe 5 years. I mean, less would be great too,
yeah.
but
Yep.
it was often on a 5 year time scale. And they'd come in, and they say, "Oh, this house needs a new kitchen. We're gonna renovate the kitchen. It's gonna sell for more." You come and say, "Oh, this business needs a new R&D facility. We're gonna renovate that.
Right.
It's gonna sell for more." Whatever it was kind of like that was kind of the frame. So how does HR fit into that dynamic, or was that not the dynamic that you were a part of?
No, I mean, it definitely is part of it. So HR, done well, really in any company, you should be super focused on retention because the retention of the people, Henry Ford figured it out years and years ago. If you can just retain people, they get better at their job. They get more effective in their role. So the same thing exists within private equity, but it's even more critical in private equity because of the nature of private equity investment, it can cause some disruption because people have assumptions about it. Sometimes the leadership does change, and you're trying to, as HR, you're trying to make sure it doesn't waterfall down to have other rippled effects of people leaving at the frontline levels because it shouldn't really affect their day to day life. Ideally, when leadership changes like that. So that's one thing, trying to make sure you keep the people in place, but also you are trying to help maximize the value of the talent that you have. And so let's say maybe when you're operating at a certain level, you might be fine with a lot of layers of leadership and really narrow spans that may not really be needed at the point you are now. Um, or if you can, a role comes open and you can hire a really top tier talent to come into that role, they might be able to manage that department with less layers and a broader span because you're just a more capable leader. So oftentimes you get that happening that makes the team end up being more effective because they have better processes, better ways of working, higher standards. I mean, there's a perfect example. We had a really strong leader come in one of the companies I was with. Very very kind leader, but she came in and saw kind of what the current operating model was. It's like, hey, I think we can take the same people and and like on the sales side, I think we could double output. And when you first hear it, you're like, that sounds crazy.
Mhm.
A year later, sure enough, and people were happier because they were making bigger bonuses and stuff. And it was the same people. It wasn't like we had to like turn everybody over. It was just like, hey, your standard has been this. I expect your standard to be that. And people were like, oh, okay, cool.
Okay. Okay.
And then
Wow, that's a good
as we
reaction.
grew the
A lot of
platform, we didn't have to grow the team because they just, yeah, and they liked it. They're like, I get to earn more money. And, I mean, because there's this idea that people do tend to, if you give somebody 40 hours to complete a job, they'll take 40 hours. If you give them 20 hours to complete a job, they'll typically complete it in 20 hours. There's obviously a natural limit to, but I think private equity is really good oftentimes. And as HR, you need to support this focus of helping to maximize that time usage because you're not looking at year over year results. You're looking at quarter over quarter, right? Because you do have that 5 year time horizon to make things happen. And so you have to have a faster kind of pace and making changes and things like that. The other thing about HR done well, especially in a private equity environment, but really anywhere, is to understand how your talent initiatives align with the overall business goals to make sure that the things you are taking on are helping that to happen. So what HR can tend to do sometimes is to put just policies into place or rules, regulations, or whatever to kind of slow the business down. And you have to have extra check boxes to check to get something approved or whatever. the best thing you can do as HR is choose like the bare minimum policies and stuff that are required that are helping to reduce how many conversations have to happen to make decisions. But then from there, kind of get out of the way and say, hey, let's make things move. If we're doing like a talent review, is it actually to help determine who's going to be the next leader in the role? We could not miss a beat if somebody gets promoted and the next guy's or lady's ready to step up. If you're doing a talent review just for the sake of saying you did a talent review, and in a fast-paced environment, private equity or otherwise, it can be a waste of time. And so you have to know, like, is it actually helping to deliver the overall financial results that we're all should be striving for? In a for-profit business, we should all be striving for that.
Because in my experience, the incentives for HR, for them to be judged as having done a good job, like how do you evaluate their contribution to the firm? As a sales guy, it's easy. There's revenue, like look, there's profit margin. It's very easy to show the value that I add to an organization. But for an HR person, how do they do that? And a lot of times it was, I put in 3 new policies this year, and they pat themselves on the back and they give themselves a 4 out of 5. Everybody's happy. We move on, and you do that across a handful of HR people for a handful of years, and next thing you know, you can't do anything, and all my guys are getting called into HR for violating policies left and right.
It's like, oh, we have this new system we're putting into place, this new policy, this new process. Yeah. There's, I would say, less effective HR. So your strongest HR people, in my opinion, are business professionals who happen to be in HR. So they understand, similar to like this, the CFO should understand how the financial planning impacts the business's success long term. The chief marketing officer, the chief revenue officer, all of those, they should understand how they affect the business. HR should be the same way. So what oftentimes happens is HR leadership doesn't know how to tell the CEO the value of HR. They get worried about that. But on some level, I'll tell you, if you have to be comfortable in your own skin as HR and be willing to say, look, a lot of our value is saving on economic costs, not like opportunity costs, not reality, like actual financial costs. And what I mean by that is the cost that could have happened if we had not done this thing well. Like, it's very, like, good HR should be sort of invisible almost, because management should be working well with their teams. But oftentimes they want to have like some kind of metric to show that shows how busy we are. Look at all we're doing. We need more people on our team and all that. But so that's when the busyness comes in. And I've had leaders I've had to push back on in the past that were HR leaders that were like, hey, we want to put into place we want you to track, TJ, how many employee relations requests came in, how much disciplinary documents we put into place. And I was like, absolutely not. One, it's going to waste my time. Like, the business needs to be alongside them, giving advice and guidance and helping to look around the corner and see problems before they become problems. Like, that's what they need to be doing. So really good HR focuses on probably 3 key metrics, and that's it. Your turnover, is a big one. Your talent acquisition results, like how well you're attracting talent, how long roles stay open. And then are you, the goals that the business has, like the same goals for everybody else are yours, the revenue and the EBITDA, right? Like, that's the profitability. That should be your focus as HR also. Oftentimes HR doesn't even talk about those. I'm like, no.
I've never heard an HR person say EBITDA before. So that was
right. Well, but it's so important because that's how you can make a decision on whether it's time to go hire more people. The perfect example and once I give people this example, a light bulb kind of turns on, and it's like, oh, that's why. Think about overtime. If I said, hey, Paul, like, a lot of your team had overtime last month, is that a good thing or a bad thing in your mind off the top? Not to put you on the spot, but
No, I mean, my immediate question, well, what was our output?
There you go. See, right? That's what HR people should be. But lots of HR are like, oh my gosh, we had this cost, and we need to.
Yeah. It can be immediately.
CFOs of the world oftentimes are like, hey, we spent this much money. Really good HR would connect with the operations leader, and I did maybe work with like the data team if there is a data team, and connect the overtime to the production. And if we got overtime, but we, which is time and a half, but if our production doubled, our net revenue was better, right? And so now the human element, what HR should watch out for is eventually overtime is a tap that runs out. Like you have to eventually hire more people because people burn out. But so there's a natural tension there. But good HR should help you understand how the overtime contributed to the bottom line and whether
Yeah.
it was a good investment or not a good investment. That's so once I kind of give people that example, they're like, oh, like that's it's like right. How do the people's effort and what you're doing turn into results at the end
Yes.
of the day?
Well,
Yeah.
and then connect with the sales as well and say, we did this. Did we do it to solve problems? Or
Right.
did we do it
Right.
because we were behind? Or,
Yeah.
where's
Yeah.
the communication with the customer? Are we not getting
Mhm.
orders in on time? Like, why did we need to have guys working 60-hour weeks? In my experience, guys would like
Right.
to have like a little overtime. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they want to be at like 45 hours.
Yeah.
They get
Yeah.
comfortable. They like
Right.
that extra
Nice, a little extra kick, right?
they like that little extra kick. So you gotta watch out. You gotta watch out for that too.
Right, right. It does happen, but that's where again, but also monitoring the numbers, right? Because there's this tendency, and I'm kind of really geeking out about the HR sort of science of things, but there's a tendency in HR to be like, "Oh, no, this is our data. And I'm not going to share with you what our data says because like that's like confidential." Like
Wait, hold
some
on.
of
Whoa,
these
HR wouldn't want to share that with the C-suite? What?
no, like I mean, on some level, but how do you get it to the C-suite from a reporting standpoint? Because if it's standalone data
Mm.
of overtime or turnover or
Oh,
whatever,
yeah,
that's
and it's
so
not
what?
connected. It's not
Right?
connected to any. Yeah.
I've got to connect with the IT, which let's be honest, IT because they control the provisioning of the computers. They can get into the data anyway if they really wanted to. But if I connect with IT or whoever's responsible for the data or the ops team or whatever,
Yeah.
and start tying the data together
Yeah.
around what ops is doing, what the revenue results were, it's like now. If I'm a CEO or I'm the board, now I can actually make decisions of like, oh, we should obviously go hire more people to do this work because look what it's producing for us, right? That's where the value of HR starts to come in, where people don't even question like HR being like they say HR is a cost function. I'm like,
Yeah.
done well, HR should be viewed as almost like supporting revenue generation if you're doing it right. Anyway, that's like my soapbox. It's like,
No, this is
keep me on the
great.
soapbox moment.
This is why I can refer to you as the greatest HR guy in all of concrete, TJ Crosby, the one and only.
Yeah, the one
So
and only.
the one,
One's enough, you said, right?
one's enough. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
All right. So,
yeah.
so thank you so much. That was a great conversation. It's just funny, man. My whole life, like HR has been a 4-letter word. So,
Yeah, right. It's common. It's normal, and we kind of earned it. We've earned that reputation, to be honest.
well, and even the HR reps that I had were like them. That like the people were fine. They were great, actually. I'd go
Mhm.
to the Christmas function. I'd sit right next to them. It'd be great. They knew my all about my family. They were always asking about my daughter. Like they were wonderful. Like don't like
Right,
outside of
right.
that, but it was just the whole like we have 3 new policies now. It's like, brother,
Yeah,
come on.
yeah.
Um, oh, I did have actually. Oh, sorry. Before we transition, I had one more question.
You're good.
Uh,
Yeah.
it seemed to me like another big responsibility of the HR function at the company I was at was they were always managing benefits. It
Mm.
actually at some points of the year, it would be a massive
Oh,
time
yeah.
suck on them to review the benefits. How are people using the benefits? What benefits are we missing? Does that you mentioned 3 things, but you didn't mention anything about benefits? Would that just sort of be folded under talent acquisition? Like you need that stuff in place, or talent retention? Like where does that
Yeah.
fit in your mind?
I mean, it's part of the. I mean, as far as metrics, like the C-suite would really care about the ones I've mentioned, or like, that's the ownership or the C-suite. As an HR leader, that's part of your overall compensation package for your team, and so that's part of attracting the talent. The benefits piece, it's just there's a lot. Like benefits have a lot of oftentimes there's a lot of different vendors that are involved. You have different insurance companies. You have often an outside broker you're dealing with to help you go to market to shop the benefits programs themselves, like you know, yeah, United or Blue Cross or Anthem or whoever. Like they're only going to like your current platform is only going to give you your renewal rates within a certain window of your time you have to renew. So you have like this like dead sprint to go figure out what your plan is going to be to change. So that's where there's a lot of time suck because of that, because it's just like kind of this like narrow window of time. But again, HR should be largely invisible, is what I mean, right? So if you're doing the benefits piece well, you're doing the compensation programs well, then everybody's kind of content with. There's always gonna be people that wish they had more pay, better benefits, whatever. That's like a norm. But there's a certain level where okay, good enough. We're at kind of a good at market or a little bit above market. But once you have kind of swapped around and put everything back into place, then you kind of go back here into the background again because people just are getting paid reliably. People are getting their
Yeah.
benefits reliably. That's the
So
yeah.
so let me ask another question about it.
Sure.
How do you measure the impact of a benefits program to say that, like, yes or no, we have the right amount of benefits or we have the right programs in place to attract the talent and retain the talent?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think this practice tends to come up more in HR if you're doing it well than I think it might in other disciplines. I think marketing is one that it comes up to, but it really is about benchmarking. So the only way to really do it is to kind of look over the fence at what your neighbor's doing and what are they offering because it's I think it's probably a lot like concrete production to be honest. Like you want to use the right amount of cement to have it be the strength that it needs, but not too much where it costs too much to produce on a per cubic yard basis, right? So that's where the admixes come in to help reduce how much cement is needed. So it's very much that way. Benefits and compensation in HR. You want to do it well enough that people want to be with your company versus somewhere else, but not so well that you can't afford to hire people because you're paying too much. And so that's that's the tension. So benchmarking is really how you do it. And you have a strategy as a company. If you're really focused on brand pride, you're really focused on having top talent versus developmental talent, and every company needs to make its own decision. Then that plays into how you're going to set up your compensation package, your benefits package. You kind of have to decide where you want to be in the market, and that's really what determines what you're going to go do.
Okay.
Um,
No, that makes sense. Yeah, benchmarking is huge for a lot of it. It's not just HR. I mean,
right,
even in sales and business operations, you kind of
right.
want to peek over the fence and be like, "Oh, what are their margins?"
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. What are you charging? Yeah, can we get
yeah, yeah.
lower than them?
Where are they at?
Or a little bit better, but where we can show why it's a little higher.
Yeah, yeah. You always want to peek over the fence and look at it. So that's cool, man. What a great insight for our audience to hear that there are HR people out there that are business minded and business focused and bring that attitude and want to march a business forward and understand, like, hey, we can't get mired down in policy making. So it's not that you have to be anti policy or policy absent, but we need to be policy conscious
Right,
and be thinking
right,
about what actually drives the business forward. So
right.
now that you have that background in your life, you then decide you can walk me through this journey that you decided to go out of PE and start your own thing, and you've invested in. Can you describe that transition and what
Yeah,
those conversations were like with your wife?
it's a great question. So, um, any person who's working in an executive role in general, you work a lot of hours. It's just part of life, right? And so I was doing that. I was, I had a successful career and was overall happy with where I was. I had become a chief HR officer, which is kind of a somewhat of a goal of mine. And at a relatively young age, I guess, I wasn't quite 40 yet. But honestly, had always had this desire to do more. Always had this desire to really kind of create and build a business that reflected the type of environment that I personally would want to work within and would be really proud of. And I landed on this idea that the only way I could truly do that was to unapologetically make decisions that set up the operational model, the culture, all that. So the conversation with my wife was like, hey, we prayed about it. I think this is something we can afford to do for a couple of years. And if we need to, change course, I can go back to work for somebody else or whatever. So began looking for opportunities out there. I used biz, buy, sell, ownership through acquisitions, kind of a new like hip thing to do, but it wasn't quite hip yet whenever I was doing it. And
Wait, when did you take over concrete? What was
about
your
3.5 years ago. Yeah.
okay? Yeah, I think I heard
Yeah.
JT Lonsdale talking about this exact model
Right.
recently.
And the really cool ones will call it OTA, ownership through acquisition. But I'm not cool enough
Yeah,
to do that.
yeah.
But so it was researching and came across a few different opportunities and realized that like headhunting and search was where I wanted to focus. I thought about maybe a commercial landscaping company or HVAC or whatever. My dad and his dad were home builders and stuff, but I landed on search. It felt like something I could really connect with, and I also knew that I could come in, and I was confident we could do a better job than a lot of other companies out there do, because I'd been a recipient of the services, and I knew what worked and what didn't work. And yeah, so sought out the opportunity, saw Concrete Careers. It was at a very reasonable price point. Gene, the founder, was ready to make a transition out of being the day-to-day owner, and his business partner as well, and came in, bought it for a decent price. It was overvalued, like technically, compared to what the cold hard cash kind of numbers would tell you. But the goodwill and the brand equity, like 50 years of being in a business almost at the time, I was like, that's where I'll take the risk,
Yeah.
But I felt really confident we could really make this into something. And so, yeah, we had 2 team members that worked for me at the time. We've got 13 or 14, I think now. We've opened up for a couple more roles. And so we'll see what happens there. And then with EBS, we're pushing 20 at this point. But yeah, that's what brought me in. And so I really fell in love with the industry, though, pretty quickly. The type of people that are in this industry, I thought I knew, but man, it's been so true. How collegial they are, and how family centric this industry is, and privately held businesses. Even with some of the private equity moves a little differently than kind of the typical like bank side type private equity. It's just been a breath of fresh air to come in and be part of like Main Street America, to be honest. And we have really focused on relationships. That's what I wanted to bring in, was relationships as a focus. And because that was the firms that I had worked with really well, were focused more on the relationship they had with me than they were on how many search fees we were paying them. And so we tried to bring that same mindset. You got to be patient, because the revenue doesn't grow quite as quickly in the beginning, but it starts to accelerate later on. And that's kind of where we are now. It's kind of a long answer to the question, I guess, but what brought me into it was like, hey, I want to go own my own business. Simple as that. And like, what is that going to be?
Yeah.
And
what is that going to be? Well, that's
research that came across this.
Well, it's cool that you gave yourself like a blue sky mindset of like, what is it going to be? And then you said, all right, well, what am I actually good at? What do I know? What do I really know? And there was a business available that was right in that wheelhouse that has a good name, has that goodwill. I think that
right.
I think you can't do any better than that. And the 3 team members that I've met so far were fantastic. Well, besides yourself, were fantastic.
He's like, you don't count. You're not on that list.
Right. No, I know 4 of you.
But the other 3 I met, they're great.
Yeah. Oh man, that's good. No, everybody so far has been phenomenal. It was hilarious. Like, signed on to the first call and they're already like yelling at each other, and it was like, I was like, what did I just walk into? And they're dying laughing. They're like, no, I swear it was friendly.
Right. We love each other. Promise.
Yeah. Oh, it was so funny. It was so funny. They were the sense of humor on that team was so good, but like they were so organized. And at the end of the call, it was like, here are all the action items. And it was really well done to have that type of collegiality and humor, but still getting work done. I mean, that's an interesting culture you're building over there. Where did you? Was that already there? Like, is that something that you're instilling on purpose? That's something they're bringing in. You're looking for it when you're bringing people in. As culture building is kind of an ephemeral thing. Yeah. Like, how do you think about it? How are you doing it?
Well, I will say, on some level, people think, oh, they can drive culture, and I'm like, no, culture is a result of the people you bring together. Straight up. Like, you can influence it a little bit. You can make people feel more have psychological safety, kind of one of the buzzwords, or you can, provide more space for feedback or whatever, open door policy, that sort of thing. You can influence it a little bit, but culture really is a result of the pieces you've brought together. And I say to a lot of people that the sum of the parts are greater than the whole. And if you bring the right people in, and especially if you bring them in and realize that they are stronger in another area of the business, you allow them space to step into that other area, assuming you have the opportunity to do that. Or you kind of look for that opportunity, you let them know you're looking for that opportunity. So bringing in great people in the first place, putting them where their strengths are. And then one thing I Braden will say sometimes I might be too trusting, but I like to put people in a place where I trust them to do their work and to do it well. And people respond very favorably to that level of autonomy and respect. So great people that are smart, you actually trust them and respect them and let them go do their job. And ta-da! Like it makes you look like you're a genius, right? Because they're collectively geniuses. The
Yeah.
big brain, like the results is
Yeah.
you could never try to replicate that. Just having it all be kind of marionette style. I'm pushing down everything. That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
Just doesn't work. Top tier people. What I kind of say is oftentimes I like to have people that work for me, work with me, that could go be self-employed
Hmm.
if they wanted to. They're that self-motivated, that passionate, but they're like, I don't want to deal with all that, the burden of having to make sure payroll gets met or whatever. Like, I'm gonna let you handle that burden, but I'm gonna, for the most part, feel like I'm part of that kind of business owner type environment. Man, that is like the exact type of team that succeeds in an environment like ours, for
I just
sure.
love talking to small business owners because if you haven't experienced it, there is no stress like having to make payroll.
I mean, that's where this gray and this gray and this gray. That's where it's come from.
There's nothing like it. I'm happy that you're growing, man. I mean,
Yeah,
so
appreciate that.
uh the Concrete Careers as a company, I think we talked about it privately, but we'll say it here on air that it is was primarily a search firm. You're matching people with companies. I want to talk quickly about what is Concrete Careers, what is like your standard workflow, and then we got to let everybody know like what's coming next because
Right.
that's where it's a gigantic game changer, and we can't believe nobody's ever done it before. And it's one of those things like it hits you in the head. Like, what? Nobody else
Yeah.
has done this. Like, where are we? So, but I want to start. I want to start first with like standard operating procedure
Mhm.
for how you would work with a client.
That's a great question. So at our core, we are truly a headhunting firm. I think some people think of headhunting as like this like negative thing these days. I'm like, oh,
What?
I don't mean to like you're a headhunter. Like I don't mean anything by that. I'm like, no, we are headhunters. That's what we
Oh, I
do.
thought that was. I actually thought that was a. I thought that was a positive term.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, we're kind of bringing it back into the lexicon of like the language we want to use is headhunting because headhunting denotes that you are proactively going to find people to come work in this role for the
Yes.
client.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We are finding people that are not currently considering the next opportunity and kind of waving our hands to get their attention to have the conversation to hopefully they consider the opportunity, right? A lot of people we reach out to are like, no, I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a lot of work. But the reason we do that is because our clients, for the most part, if they have a good brand, good name recognition, they don't need help for most of the roles that they could post a role and get applicants that want to come work there. Great. Most of the time they've got it handled, but it's the ones that are challenging for whatever reason they pull us into, and we have to go do the headhunting thing. And we just do the same post and pray, I call it, that they would do. Well, that doesn't do a whole lot of good
Correct.
to be confident to get results. But also the reason we talk about being headhunters is our model is to strongly partner and closely partner with the client where they're still in charge of the search. And we effectively work alongside them. We are an extension of their team. So that's our core business is that. And then recently we started offering HR, like fractional HR, HR consulting support as well. That's kind of a new thing. That's kind of those two are kind of in core to what we've done the last year or so, I would say.
Yeah. And before we get to like the new and exciting thing that if it hasn't launched yet, it'll be launching soon. Question on headhunting. It sounds fun. I've gotten calls from recruiters in the past that
Right.
ask out of nowhere, like, "Hey, would you want to go work for this company for this thing?" And it's just always flattering when you get those calls. But
Right.
what does
Right.
that process look like as a headhunter at Concrete Careers? Is there some fancy software that nobody knows about? Like what's the secret sauce to hunting all these heads?
Honestly, a lot of times recruiters, that's part of what I wanted to make sure I was clear on whenever I came into this business. A lot of times recruiters will be like, oh, Paul, we have a super special Rolodex that
Yeah, no,
nobody else has.
they do.
Like
Yes,
in the age of AI and LinkedIn and Indeed and Facebook, like, no, you don't. Sorry. Like there might be a handful of people, especially in our industry, that are not visible online at all. And we've got a lot of those are in our database. Yes, that's true. But it's more about the persistence, honestly, to be reaching out to people. The technology does help us to get contact information that we might not otherwise have. So that's helpful that we invest in the technology. But the biggest thing is making our clients, because we trust our clients to see the same candidate data we have, we share it with them. We're like, hey, here are the people we're reaching out to. And the client's like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Wow.
I really am interested in that guy. And so that awareness of who we're reaching out to, when it comes time to make a decision, it it helps get the managers to not be on the fence about making a call, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you have a couple of candidates you've interviewed and you're trying to decide which one to hire, and you don't really know, TJ, were these the first two you found? The
Mhm.
first two people that like returned your phone call? Or are they like the best two? And so we commit to try to provide the best two. That's our goal. But the only way you can really be confident about that is to actually see the work. It's like I joke with our teams, like we do your math homework or your math test. You got to show your work. Same idea for us. But it's the persistence. So it's not super special people are in the mix. We do have our database, obviously, but it's that we are relentless in providing a really strong pool of candidates to consider. The other thing I commit to our clients too, I'm real passionate about this too, Paul, sorry. But there's a tendency to be like, oh, I know a guy. You should interview this guy and see if you want to hire him. We'll still know a guy, but we'll have the other handful of people that we feel like are also qualified and interested to evaluate at the same time. So you're not just it's not a binary 1-to-1, like this guy or nobody.
Mhm.
You better hire him, right?
Yeah,
It's
gosh,
like,
yeah.
no, like, do you like him as well as these others? Oh, you like this one better? Okay, cool. Like, then hire that guy. It's, given the choice and the confidence of making a decision is really what we are doing as headhunters, not finding super special people.
No,
No disrespect to our candidates out there. We love you all,
no, no,
but
no, no, no. That's good
but
because
yeah.
when I think of headhunting personally,
Mhm.
and again, I don't know anything, so just
Right.
that's what I do on this podcast. So we just speculate
Right.
and throw out ideas that may not be
Right.
grounded in reality. Uh,
Yeah.
I think of
Yeah.
headhunting like a sales job, and um,
Yep.
and not like so for you the way I don't know your exact revenue model, but you're not. I don't think you're not getting paid by the guy who you're actually recruiting. You get paid by the company um, where that
That's a good
person's
question.
getting.
And I will say, love to share a little bit. So yeah, so if you're a candidate out there and you have a firm that wants you to pay them, or they want you to sign a letter saying that you are exclusively represented by them, run away, because reputable firms are not going to ask you to do anything on the candidate side that commits you in any way, shape, or form. You should have full autonomy, full freedom as a candidate. Yes, we get paid by our clients. And I don't mind saying our average fee on the search side is around 30 grand, because people are paying us to fill the role that is mission critical, is going to provide a return on investment when it gets filled, but it's been challenging to get filled, or they know it will be challenging to get filled, so they call us up. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
well, that's
that's who
why you
pays
hire
us. That's the
experts.
client.
Yeah, yeah, that's why you hire
Right.
an expert to go get it done. And so when they're going, so when I think of it as a sales job, it's interesting because I don't think of because you've got two different sales you have to make. You have to sell the
Right.
client that they should hire you to do the search, and then you have to sell the person you're searching that there's other opportunities for them out there, and they should be considering those opportunities. But
Right.
that's
Right.
that's a very unique like sales like proposition to have to tell someone that they should change their life.
Right. Yeah. Upend your life, make a move over here. Right. Hey, trust me that of all the people out there, this person is the one that you should hire and to make an
Yeah.
impact to your company in a positive way.
Yeah.
Right. Like I joke that our business is humans dealing with humans to help place them to work with other humans. Like
Yeah.
we have the human element in our business is so complex because of all the different personalities and stuff. I will say, done well, we try not to sell too much candidates or clients on any one piece, because they have to want it. They have to ultimately, at the end of the day, they have to want to
Mm,
be connected to each other. So there's a level of
interesting.
convincing somebody that, hey, consider the opportunity,
Yeah.
consider the candidate, but at the end of the day, they need to be comfortable to make
Okay,
that choice and that
that's
decision.
super interesting. That's some really next level human psychology because uh I mean you're laughing, but like I'm for real. So
Yeah.
it's it's next level because the big word you used there was change, and you can't
Mhm.
force somebody to change. They have to be and it doesn't matter what it is in life. It could be addiction, it could be health, fitness. You
Right.
cannot convince someone to change. They have to want it for themselves.
That's right. 100%. Yeah. You have to, again, on the client side, we provide the information. On the candidate side, we try to provide as much information as possible. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, here you go. And they have to be the one to choose to pick it up.
Yeah,
Right.
no, that's super interesting. Are you able to tell me, gosh, because this is fascinating from like a sales mindset. So I love having people on this program that have a completely different perspective on this
Right.
industry that we love. So this is really fascinating to me because I'm just imagining your recruiters, your headhunters on the phones, banging the phones all day long, trying to find the right people and get them on the phone and like let them know, not just in writing, like here's a JD. Like,
Right.
just because
Right.
the job description says one thing, what's the actual like when I get there, what's it really gonna look like? What's this company gonna feel like? And you can really express that over the phone a lot better.
Yeah.
How many
Right.
contacts are they trying? Is there a number of contacts they need to make in a day to be a high level recruiter? Is it a volume game? Is it just
There, there tends to be a volume aspect to it, but for us, because we are kind of a more boutique search firm, our focus more is on identifying and doing deep research on finding the right candidates to be reaching out to in the first place. There is a tendency in a lot of firms to just, let me find 500 people that I could be reaching out to, blast out LinkedIn messages, send text messages,
yeah,
whatever, and hope for the best,
yeah,
in early days, we had an element of that in the mix with our business, but we've gotten further away from that as I've gotten to be able to further clarify how we work. And now we find 100 to 150 that really seem to fit the parameters, and we're reaching out to them. It's much more targeted. But yes, you do have a certain number of calls and emails and stuff you're making, but it's much more kind of a targeted
it's
way.
much more targeted. Okay,
Uh,
lot less
yeah, yeah,
scattershot these days. Now that you
yeah.
got your feet underneath you, you're really entrenched a little. Got processes
Right.
are a little bit better. So.
And if you, I think it's similar to like the shortlist concept,
Mhm,
like the book, the shortlist.
mhm,
Like if you're having really strong activity, or even how to be a rainmaker, you're having really strong activity toward the people you would really want to be considered for the role.
mhm.
And you spend more time pursuing those particular people, you're going to have better results. You'll have less candidates at the top of the funnel, probably. Maybe have similar results still at the bottom of the funnel, but for us, we'd rather spend a little bit more time thinking about how to reach out to that
Yeah.
person in a way they will respond than just reaching out to six people that may not really fit the bill.
Fascinating. Yeah. So I've got the same thing. The short list concept runs in my life selling
Right. Right.
supplementary cementitious materials, which is it's a new company with a material people are familiar with, but it's a new product because it's coming from a
Right.
new plant with a new company. And um,
Right.
but so yes,
Right.
shortlist. I got literally a handful of companies that I'm like, all right, these guys pretty sure they're going to convert. They put a lot of effort into it, um,
Yeah.
and they're going to help me get these first sales done into the market. It's taken a lot of work, and it's a lot of work on their side too. So I want to reward that and not
Right.
cannibalize anything that they're doing. But that doesn't mean I'm not constantly having to add more people to that short list, maybe in different regions or different areas or different
Right.
markets, and
Right.
keep
Right.
building that and just but really try to concentrate on those guys that I know are going to help me break through right here at the beginning. I want to transition now to what's coming. This is the
Mhm.
thing we teased earlier that nobody's thought of this. How has nobody thought of this? I don't want to even step on that. I want you to take the floor and tell people what's coming next from Concrete Careers.
I appreciate that so much, and be excited to share. So we have heard a lot of folks talk about they wish there was a place they could go and make candidates in general aware of the sheer number of opportunities that exist within our industry as concrete. Concrete is the second most consumed product in the world. It should be an incredibly well known space. It's like one of the best kept secrets. We have stepped in and established the Concrete Careers Industry Job Board to provide a place for companies to be able to come and share their roles with the marketplace that are available. And the idea is that we are heavily focused on targeting concrete professionals to make them aware of the job board so they come in and create profiles and have a chance to look at these opportunities and to be able to help to provide a level of access to talent and a level of access to opportunities that just not existed until now. We did start it up technically at the beginning of this month is when we had sort of like the go live officially. We've had a lot of positive traction so far, but yeah, I'm like you. I was shocked that it didn't exist already. There's been iterations that have been attempted, but We're kind of the first effort industry wide, concrete industry broadly, that's put this together, and really excited to see where it goes from here.
It's crazy. Like, so if somebody today was like, man, I'm not really happy where I'm at. I want to look for something else. They might go to Indeed and start typing things
Right.
in, but good
Yep.
luck if you've ever
Right.
done that, trying to
Right.
find something concrete specific, because all the search words get mixed up with everything else that's out there.
Yeah.
And you would think
Right.
like there's got to be a place that aggregates all these jobs that are out there in one spot, and I can search, and it just hasn't existed. So now it exists. Where can people
Right.
find this concrete specific job board?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. concretecareers.com/jobs. Try to keep it simple.
Oh,
So, or you can just go to concretecareers.com and click job board, and it'll take you there too. So
and you're
concretecareers.com/jobs.
you're listening to an HR guy that knows marketing. Simple URLs,
Right.
SEOs. He's got it. He's got it dialed.
Yeah.
That or he hired somebody that knows this stuff. And
Both.
yeah.
Our smart people, they'll tell you what to do.
You also have another thing that I want people to know about. And so the audience knows that he didn't ask me to promote any of this stuff. I just think it's great. And I wanted to bring it up. And I also want to bring up your podcast. You have your own podcast. So the people might be listening. You go, man, this guy's pretty good for a guest. Like, no, he does this also. And he has a podcast.
Yeah.
Let people know, what's your podcast?
Yep. So the podcast is the Blueprint Podcast. It's so blueprintpodcast.com.
Yep. And they're focused.
Where you go to find it.
A lot of their previous guests are guys who've been in the industry, or girls that have been in the industry a while, and they're telling you like, what's the blueprint for success? How did you get where you're at
That's
in
right.
life? And it's sort of
That's
expanded recently to more conversations, but I think if you dig into the meat of it, it's very fascinating to hear some of those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. The kind of the thread that goes throughout is what themes help make somebody be successful? What did they have to kind of persevere through? What was the blueprint to their success in whatever way, shape, or form? Yeah. And then while we're at it, repping the brand today, merch shop. Also, if you go to concretecareers.com, you can check out the shop. Callie Wells has done a lot of great stuff for some exciting things out there that are meant to make the industry a little cooler. So check it out. Love to have people wearing it around the different trade shows.
While you may be the greatest HR guy ever in concrete, Callie might be the coolest hairstyle in concrete.
Right.
Can we give her that?
Right.
Can we give her that title?
Absolutely. Yeah. She's like, I can never change my hair now because people know me as Callie. I'm like, you're right. You can't. This is what it is now.
Oh no. It's like, oh my gosh. Did you ever watch that show back in the day, NCIS? Did you ever see? And they had the girl that worked in the lab. It was like the goth dress.
Right.
She could never change her costume. She was like 60 years old and she was still wearing goth. I was like, oh my gosh, what are we doing?
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
Hey, I appreciate your time here, TJ, and audience. Thank you so much for sticking with us. This has been another edition of the Slump Monkeys Concrete Podcast. If you would like to reach out to TJ Crosby is available on LinkedIn. He's very active on there. He will reply. Him and his team, they're wonderful folks, and we will see you on the next episode.